Last July, my electric bill hit $240, and almost all of it came from one single appliance: the air conditioner. So I started wondering something simple but almost embarrassing. What if I could cool my whole house without touching that machine at all? Not with a smaller AC, not with a fancier fan, with almost nothing. And what I ended up building cost me about $5, used no electricity, and changed how I think about home cooling completely. This isn't a gimmick or a magic trick. It's an old idea, mostly forgotten, that people used for centuries before air conditioning existed at all. And once you understand why it works, you start to see how much money modern comfort actually costs us, often without us noticing. Before I get into it, if you're the kind of person who likes learning how everyday things connect to real economics, hit subscribe, because this channel is all about taking ordinary experiments like this one and figuring out what they actually mean for your wallet. Okay, so let's talk about the problem first. Air conditioning is expensive, not just to buy, but to run every single day. It pulls a huge amount of power, especially in the hottest months, and that power isn't free. It comes from the grid, and the grid isn't cheap, especially during peak summer demand when everyone is running their units at the same time. That demand spike is actually a big part of why electricity often costs more exactly when you need cooling the most. So the real question isn't just, how do I stay cool? It's, how do I stay cool without paying peak prices for peak demand? That's where this experiment started. I wanted to see if there was a way to cool a house using nothing but airflow, water, and a little bit of basic physics, the same way people did generations ago in hot, dry climates. The idea is called evaporative cooling, and if you've ever stepped out of a pool on a windy day and felt suddenly cold, you already understand the basic principle. Water evaporating off a surface pulls heat away from that surface. It's not magic, it's just physics, and it's been used in some form for thousands of years, long before anyone ever thought about compressors or refrigerant. People in hot, dry regions built entire homes around this idea, using thick walls, shaded courtyards, and wet cloths hung in doorways just to survive the hottest months without losing a fortune to fuel or fire. But I didn't want to just explain the theory. I wanted to actually build something, test it, and see what really happens in a real house with real heat and real limitations. So I started with almost nothing. A few yards of cheap burlap fabric from the hardware store, a used cardboard box I already had lying around, some string, and a small bucket I already owned. Total new spending, if you don't count things I already had sitting around the garage, came out to a little under $5. That's basically the cost of one cheap fast food meal. The plan was simple in theory, though I wasn't sure yet if it would actually work well enough to matter. I wanted to create a spot in a window where outside air would pass through a wet piece of fabric before entering the house, cooling down as it evaporated the moisture. The same basic principle as an old-fashioned swamp cooler, but with no motor, no fan, and no power draw at all. Before touching anything, I checked the setup for basic safety first. No exposed wiring, no fire risk, nothing structural I'd be damaging, since this whole idea depended on being reversible and harmless to the house itself. That mattered to me, because I didn't want this experiment to cost more in repairs than it could ever save in electricity. Once I confirmed that, I moved on to actually building it. First, I cut the cardboard into a simple frame that would fit snugly into the open window space, leaving a gap in the middle for airflow. Next, I stretched the burlap fabric across that opening, securing it with string so it stayed tight but still breathable, since airflow needed to pass through the fibers, not around them. After that, I set the small bucket just above the frame, using a few strips of extra fabric as simple wicks, letting water slowly soak upward and spread evenly across the burlap through basic capillary action, the same effect that pulls water up a paper towel. There was no pump, no motor, no plug, just gravity, fabric, and the natural tendency of water to travel through tightly woven material. The idea was that outside air, especially with any natural breeze, would need to pass through that wet fabric before it could enter the room, and in doing so, it would lose some of its heat to evaporation. I'll admit, standing there looking at a cardboard frame with wet burlap stapled to it, it felt less like a science experiment and more like something you'd see abandoned on the side of the road. But that's often how the cheapest solutions look: unglamorous, a little rough, easy to dismiss at first glance. Still, the core science behind it wasn't questionable at all. It was just a matter of whether a simple home version could produce a noticeable effect, or if it would end up being a fun idea that didn't actually do much in the real world. I checked the window placement carefully, since airflow direction mattered more than almost anything else in this setup. I picked a window that usually caught at least some outside breeze during the afternoon, since a completely still-sealed room wouldn't pull much air through the fabric at all. With the frame in place, the fabric damp, and the bucket slowly feeding water down into it, there was nothing left to do but wait, watch, and start paying attention to what the air actually felt like on the other side. The first thing I noticed wasn't dramatic, and honestly, that surprised me a little. It wasn't a sudden blast of cold air like you'd feel standing in front of an air conditioner vent. It was subtler than that, a soft, slightly cool breeze drifting in through the window, noticeably different from the warm, still air sitting in the rest of the house. I held my hand near the fabric first, just to feel the difference directly before trusting anything else. The air passing through the wet burlap felt noticeably cooler than the air on the outside of the window, even without any instruments. That alone told me the basic concept was working, at least on a small scale, so I let it run for a while, checking back every so often instead of standing there the whole time, since I wanted to see how it behaved over a longer stretch, not just in the first few minutes. After about 20 minutes, the room with the window set up felt noticeably more comfortable than the rooms without it, especially compared to a room on the same side of the house with a normal open window and no fabric at all. It wasn't freezing, it wasn't AC level cold, but it was a real physical difference, the kind you'd notice walking from one room into another without anyone telling you which room had the experiment running. I wanted to be careful here, because it's easy to convince yourself something is working just because you want it to. So I did a rough comparison instead of relying on feeling alone. I left one window in a similar room open with no covering at all, and compared how that room felt against the room with the wet burlap setup, checking both around the same time in the afternoon when the heat outside was at its strongest. The plain open window let in warm air with no real change. The burlap window consistently let in air that felt cooler and, in an interesting way, a little more comfortable on the skin, likely due to the added moisture in an otherwise very dry, hot environment. That second part matters because evaporative cooling depends heavily on how dry the outside air already is. In a very humid climate, the same setup would likely do much less, since the air is already holding a lot of moisture and can't absorb much more through evaporation. But in a drier climate, or during a low humidity stretch of summer, the effect becomes much more noticeable, which lines up with why this method has historically been used mostly in hot, dry regions, rather than humid coastal ones. I also noticed the bucket needed refilling more often than I expected, since the fabric was pulling water upward and losing it steadily to the air the entire time it worked. That's really the ongoing cost of the system, not money, but attention and water. You have to keep the fabric wet, or the effect fades almost immediately and the room goes right back to feeling like the rest of the house. So this isn't something you set up once and forget about. It's closer to a small daily task, similar to watering a plant, except this plant is helping cool your living room instead of growing anything. Now here's where the economic thinking really starts to matter. A basic window air conditioning unit can cost anywhere from a modest amount to several $100s just to purchase, before you even think about the ongoing electricity it uses every single day it runs. Multiply that daily power draw across an entire hot season, and you're looking at a real recurring cost that adds up month after month, especially if you're cooling more than one room. This burlap and cardboard setup, on the other hand, cost about $5 total, use no electricity, and its only ongoing expense is a small amount of tap water, which in most places costs next to nothing compared to a power bill. That doesn't mean this replaces an air conditioner entirely, and I want to be honest about that instead of overselling it. It didn't chill the room down the way a real AC unit would on the hottest, most humid day of the year. It made things noticeably better, took the edge off the heat, and made a warm room feel more livable, especially with a bit of natural airflow helping it along. Think of it less like a replacement and more like a very cheap way to reduce how hard your main cooling system has to work, or a decent backup option on days when running a full AC unit isn't necessary or affordable. That's actually a really important idea in basic economics, the idea of a substitute good. You don't always need the expensive, high-performance version of something to get a meaningful benefit. Sometimes a cheaper, lower-performance version gets you 80% of the comfort for a tiny fraction of the cost. And for a lot of people, that trade-off is absolutely worth it, especially during shoulder seasons when it's warm but not brutally hot yet. There's also a time cost here that's easy to overlook if you only think in terms of dollars. Building this took real time. Some trial and error with the fabric tension and ongoing maintenance to keep it working well. That time has value too, even if it doesn't show up on a receipt. For some people, that trade of time for money makes total sense. For others, especially those with very limited free time, paying more for a plug-in solution might genuinely be the smarter economic choice, and that's a completely reasonable conclusion to reach. By the end of this test, I had a working, low-cost cooling method sitting in my window, a much clearer sense of when this kind of solution actually makes sense, and a handful of honest limitations that any fair explanation has to include instead of hiding them for the sake of a better story. Sitting there afterward, feeling that slightly cooler breeze drift through the window, I found myself thinking less about the fabric and cardboard, and more about what the whole experiment actually proved. It wasn't proof that you can cool an entire house for $5 and never think about air conditioning again. That would be an overpromise, and overpromises don't hold up once real weather and real life get involved. What it actually proved is something a little more useful, and honestly more interesting. It proved that a huge chunk of the comfort we pay for every summer isn't coming from complicated technology at all. It's coming from basic physical principles that have existed for a very long time, principles most of us never think about because we're used to solving heat with a plug and a thermostat. That's worth sitting with for a second because it says something about how modern convenience works. We often pay a premium not just for performance, but for simplicity, for not having to think about water levels or fabric tension or humidity. An air conditioner asks nothing of you except electricity and money. This setup asks for attention, patience, and a bit of ongoing effort. Neither approach is wrong, they're just different trades, and understanding that trade is really the whole point of thinking about this economically instead of emotionally. So where does something like this actually make sense in real life? Realistically, it works best as a supplement, not a full replacement, especially in a dry climate during moderately hot weather, or in a smaller space like a bedroom, workshop, or garage where a full-sized AC unit might feel like overkill anyway. If you're someone who already has central air conditioning and pays a serious amount for it every summer, something like this could realistically take a small amount of pressure off that system on milder days, especially in the early evening when the sun is going down but the house is still holding onto heat. It's not going to replace your main cooling system on the worst days of July, and pretending otherwise wouldn't be honest, but used the right way, in the right conditions, it can genuinely reduce how much you're relying on expensive mechanical cooling, and that reduction, even if it's modest, adds up over an entire season. Now let's talk about where this idea does not make sense, because that matters just as much as where it does. If you live somewhere humid, this method loses a lot of its power almost immediately, since humid air simply can't absorb much more moisture no matter how wet your fabric is. If your schedule is packed and you don't have time to refill a bucket or adjust a window setup regularly, the ongoing maintenance cost and time might outweigh the money you'd save, and that's a completely valid reason to skip it. And if you're dealing with extreme heat, the kind where indoor temperatures become genuinely dangerous, this is absolutely not the moment to experiment with a DIY fix instead of using real, reliable cooling. Cheap solutions are great for saving money. They are not worth risking your health over, and that's not a line worth crossing to save a few dollars. This is really the heart of good, everyday economic thinking, and it applies to a lot more than just cooling a house. It's rarely a simple choice between the cheap option and the expensive option. It's a series of smaller questions. What am I actually trying to solve? How often do I need this to work? What happens if it fails on the one day I really need it? How much of my own time am I willing to trade for saving money? Air conditioning solves the cooling problem completely, reliably, and with almost no effort from you, but it costs real money every single time you use it, especially during peak summer demand when electricity itself becomes more expensive. This burlap and cardboard setup solves part of the problem inconsistently, but for almost nothing, and it asks for your time and attention in return. Neither one is universally right. The right choice depends entirely on your climate, your schedule, your house, and how much risk you're comfortable taking on a truly brutal day. What this experiment really gave me wasn't just a slightly cooler room. It gave me a clearer way of looking at comfort itself, as something we usually buy without questioning, wrapped up in convenience, marketing, and habit, when sometimes a $5 box and some wet fabric can chip away at that cost in a very real, very physical way. It's a reminder that some of the smartest, most efficient ideas aren't new at all. They're old solutions that got quietly replaced the moment something more convenient came along, even if that convenience came with a much higher price tag attached. And once you start noticing that pattern in one part of your life, it gets a lot harder to ignore it everywhere else, from how you heat your home in winter to how you think about food, transportation, or even your daily routines. So if this kind of thinking is interesting to you, the kind that mixes hands-on experiments with real economic reasoning, I want to hear from you directly. Tell me in the comments if you've ever tried something like this yourself, or if you're planning to give it a shot after watching this. And if this video actually made you think differently about how you're paying for comfort this summer, share it with someone who complains about their power bill every single year. Because sometimes the best upgrade isn't a bigger machine, it's a better idea.